Ready? Good afternoon. Welcome to Sutton Sewer Commissioners meeting, October 13th. I'm sorry, it is December 2021. And all members of the board, Donald, our superintendent, is absent today. And we have a guest today with us, Jen Hager, and she will be giving a presentation. So start our meeting off. Today we'll do the approval of the minutes.
Motion to accept the minutes.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Here you go, Kyle. You can pick.
It's helpful. The other one is. It doesn't show them. No, it's above his head. Off? Yeah, it's above his head. All right, you want me to jump in?
Okay. Yeah, Jen, I'd like to, next on our agenda is Jen Hager on the update, CWP. And Jen, if you could, for the public's benefit, actually just say what the letters all mean, because throughout the
course.
documentation is all letters and so forth, and I think that'll give good insight, and in that this is an update to an existing
Right.
report, right? Okay.
Right. So it was many moons ago that we did our original comprehensive waste management plan, which is basically the plan of how the town of Sutton is going to handle public wastewater or wastewater that's carried in public sewer lines for the next 20 to 30 years, depending on what period the plan was done in. The last one that was submitted to DEP and the state for approval was back in 2002. It was dated 2002. It was submitted probably in 2003, 4, or 5, along with the Manchog Sewer Project in South Sutton. We started updating that because when in between town administrators, before Jim Smith was our town administrator, there was a kind of a vacancy in there, and I actually was charged with negotiating the IMA update with the town of Millbury, and in the process of doing that IMA update, it became very clear that the 2002 CWMP had all kinds of sewer projects that we would never do or never intended to do, and there was a lot of information that needed to be updated and corrected. So when Jim came on board and kind of finished up the IMA with Millbury, he asked that I finish the update of the CWMP in my spare time, which is why it's taken 15 years to do it. And we've had some assistance here and there from Graves Engineering at one point, from Woodard and Curran at one point. Woodard and Curran has actually helped here and there on this final phase. So you, a few months ago, I believe it was, actually took a look at what was supposed to be this final version of the CWMP through 2035, and that was approved, and then some plans changed with one of the two major projects we were looking at. So because this had not gone to DEP yet, we needed to update it. So all I have for you today is kind of the sections that got updated, including the recommendations and these total charts. There are some charts, that led to these charts that were also updated. But I can answer any questions about the overall plan, about kind of flow calculations, or anything you want me to answer. But I was just going to go over kind of what changed from the last final version you reviewed and this updated version. The intent after we review this is to see if the selectmen want to see it at all. If so, I will present it to them. If not, then we'll be submitting this to DEP to just seek their guidance on if we need to do any further permitting and how this completed updated plan loops into the past environmental notification forms and phase one waivers and the various documents that were issued to the town way back in 2005. So we kind of want to see where we stand because, of course, we're just starting the process of designing the Wilkes sewer system upgrade. So we need to know what we need to do with the state, if anything, as we go through that process. So I'm just going to flip this front light so you can see that a little clearer.
Good.
Better? All right, so these are the two main tables. They're kind of the meat of the CWMP. The top table is projected total flows, and that's through 2035 in the Wilkinsonville kind of Route 146 system. So there are two sewer districts basically in the town of Sutton, or two sewer flow areas. Manchog and South Sutton are their own area. They go to the advanced wastewater treatment plant off Huff Road. And then from the villas at PV on Boston Road, east to the Northbridge, Grafton, Millbury town lines to the east and north is the Wilkinsonville Route 146 system that goes to a pump station on Blackstone Street, and then goes by Force Main to the old wastewater treatment plant, which is now a pump station in Millbury, and then up to Upper Blackstone for treatment. We're a contributing flow to the town of Millbury as a full member of the Upper Blackstone. We currently have an IMA that allows us to transport 589,000 gallons per day to the town of Millbury, and right this minute we average around 200,000 gallons a day, roughly. So what we did is we took the existing flow. Now, you have to remember this update started 15 years ago, and DEP required us to give a benchmark year, basically, as we've kind of finished wrapping that up. So our benchmark year here was actually 2017, 2018 fiscally. So the existing flow then, you can see, actually, no, we did use the 2020 number, was 167,646 up in the upper left there. I don't know if, yeah, you can't see my mouth. To determine residential flow increase, industrial and commercial flow increase, institutional flow increase, we basically took a detailed map of every parcel that the current sewer lines touch, and what was vacant, we did do some work on what is actually developable instead of just saying, oh, it's a 200-acre parcel when we know half of it is wetlands or whatever. So we did a little bit more drilling down on what was actually developable. So we believe these are much more accurate estimates than you saw in the 2002 CWMP as well. And then we used the multipliers of our average number of people per household and the, I don't have the initials now, but it's basically the calculated flow per person on the Wilkinsonville Water District system that is calculated annually by the Wilkinsonville Water District, which in this time period was 53 gallons per person per day. And this is the methodology that wastewater treatment engineers use to come up with these calculations. So, and you can see these are scoped out by, actually the starter year was 2017, so this is by 2020, we expected another 7,508 gallons of residential flow to come on, and then you can see the increments for the next 5 years until you get to the end of this plan, which is supposed to end in 2035. Did the exact same thing with industrial commercial flow. There's a different formula for that. It's based on acreage, institutional flow increase. This is where the changes occurred. We had been considering tying into the Sutton schools and the town hall into the system with a sewer line extension. So there was about 21,000 gallons of institutional flow increase projected. So we had to back that out since we decided to go a different route. And then the I&I is infiltration and inflow increase. Any new lines we expected to put in, we had to calculate an I&I, an infiltration inflow gallonage for. So you see some very minor line increases were in there, and then you have the total increase in flow, and that amounts to from 2017 to 2035 to an additional almost 174,000 gallons, bringing our projected flow by 2035 to 341,628 gallons per day. So, I'm feeling pretty confident in that number. I have asked, just because I want to be very careful, that if, say, a project came online, for instance, the selectmen had a meeting with a potential 40B developer who wanted to do 181 units in the business district, not adjacent to the current line. Obviously, that calculation of that flow is not in this projection, because you don't work in every pie in the sky thing that could happen at some point. That would amount to about 29,000 gallons a day just from that one project conservatively. So I did ask the engineers, what happens is how much do we need to worry about the fact that one or two of these unexpected projects that were not anticipated or wouldn't normally be anticipated in a typical CWMP calculation if they came online. Because what we want to be sure of, and Jack brought this up to me, we had a great conversation on this, is you don't want to put in a new 12-inch line and a new pump station with X pump capacity and need to make a full upgrade of that sooner than later. So I did send those questions out to the engineers we're currently working with on sewer design. That would be Tig and Bond. And I should get an answer back from them on that. Just preliminary conversations with the town's consulting engineer. I don't expect that they would say, oh my gosh, you need to go from 12 inches to 16 inches, you need to double the size of the pumps. I don't expect that, but having had the conversation with Jack, which was an excellent question, I wanted to reach out to our current design engineers and just make sure whatever we're moving forward with will take us at least the full term of this CWMP, if not into the future. So that Wilkinsonville is where most of the action is. In Manchog, you can see, again, open parcels along the existing line that could be served from 2017 to present would generate about another 94,000 gallons a day. Part of this flow, obviously, is already online, 2017 to today, 2021. So you've got 4 years of flow already online. So all of that 13,337 is actually going to the system right now. So by the end of the term, we anticipate 129,000. And as you know, as sewer commissioners, that is it's 19,000 gallons above current capacity of bed one. So, so we obviously, before 2035, need to be keeping an eye on why the increased capacity is coming in, if it's coming in from private development as opposed to residential development. The commissioners need to think about negotiating and the planning department potentially negotiating during development process for funds and or actual upgrades to the plant in terms of private industrial commercial development, if need be, to make sure our plant is properly sized to handle existing and potential flow. So this was the Sutton Center School campus alternatives we had to evaluate. So alternative one was to replace the septic system at Town Hall, upgrade or replace the MBR. That's the membrane batch reactor. That's that's like the heart of the wastewater treatment plant at the school. That tank at the school, along with some critical control improvements. Alternative 2 was to construct approximately 1 mile of 8-inch gravity and 2-inch force main from the villas at PV to the school campus, construct a pump station along Boston Road and at the school campus, and potentially serve 2 additional areas along Singletary and Uxbridge. In the end, when we drilled down and we got some cost figures, Alternative 1 was what was proceeded with. Only a portion of that work has been done, the work at the school. So again, I had to update the text to determine that we were going with Alternative 1, or to reflect that we were going with Alternative 1. This is the Wilkinsonville Route 146 alternatives. The alternatives that are out there are to abandon in place the existing AC, so that's asbestos concrete, also known as transite, 10-inch gravity main, and the 8-inch force main, and install a new PVC 12-inch gravity and 8-inch force mains. Upgrade the pump station for future anticipated flows. Alternative 2 would be to construct a new pump station along Providence Road, abandon in place the AC 10-inch gravity and 8-inch force mains, and install new PVC gravity and 8-inch force mains along Providence Road, and to establish new connections for the 3 users along the existing gravity main. That would be what was Mayfield Plastics, that's now Unified, the J&G Foods on Blackstone Street, and then there is the management trailer there for J&G Foods is also hooked into the system, so we want to keep that hooked in. So we did some cost analysis on this. The recommendation was to go with Alternative 2 because the costs were shockingly very, very close to each other. And it was seen better in the long run to have a new plant farther from the Blackstone River than to just be upgrading the dated plant remaining so close to the Blackstone River. So these are the recommendations from the revised plan. Most of this page has pretty much stayed the same. Townwide, we want to track septic system repairs and replacements in order to identify clusters of failures that would impact plans for future extensions. So this is really working with the Board of Health and working with either an outside vendor, an intern or something to basically look at Board of Health records and tag on a map the addresses where upgrades were necessary or where failures were identified. Same thing for Lake Singletary, to track septic failures and work with the Lake Singletary Association to continue monitoring the water. We thought we might have a bigger problem there, but a lot of the water monitoring coming back now is showing less nitrogen and showing a lot less of a problem from septic systems than in the past. So that's a good thing. Sewer mapping, maintain and upgrade our ArcGIS sewer system map and expand it to include attributes such as pipe slope, which we actually, we have pipe width and pipe lengths and pipe type right now. So this would be pipe slope, pipe material, date installed, and manhole attributes such as rim elevation, invert elevations, type of structure. And this, again, would be over time by staff, or maybe in a 1 or 2 time appropriation to have an outside firm come in and do some of this work so that you have at the tip of your fingers up-to-date information about all the assets that you control and operate. Our IMAs, update the Millbury IMA as Sutton flows approach 90% of current allotment, or more likely, updated in 2030 with the agreement expiring in 2032. As you can see from our flow chart, you won't be anywhere near 90% in 2035 unless something crazy happens. So maintain and update the Northridge IMA as necessary. Again, that's just with the Walmart complex and users along the way. And consider over time if there's any value of entering into an IMA with the town of Douglas. Tomorrow, I go to an event in Douglas. Douglas did secure one-stop MassWorks grant funding for water and sewer line upgrades and extensions. The water line will serve at least Blackstone Logistics that straddles the Sutton Town line, And they may actually consider pulling the sewer as well. So that might be an alternative we would have if needed. So that's why this is in here. If there's any value to the town, be open to the discussion. And then with this plan itself, update the comprehensive waste management plan beginning in 2031 as the Millbury-Sutton IMA and current version of the CWMP near expiration. As far as I know, and this may change after we have the meeting with DEP, you're not required anymore to have a CWMP unless you're doing like SRF funding and stuff, which we don't do anymore because we can get a better rate. But it's always good to keep the plan up to date, just like you keep the master plan up to date, just like you keep the bylaws up to date, so that whoever is working and running your plants and on your commission knows the vision as you move forward and has a plan as you move forward. Now that you have a nice updated, short, to the point plan, hopefully it's easy to update. And these are the project recommendations. Wilkinsonville is to pursue alternative 2, construct a new pump station along Providence Road sized for future flows, a combination of 12-inch gravity main from the manhole at 44 Providence Road into a new pump station, and a minimum 8-inch force main out of this pump station to the Millbury pump station, as well as a new 8-inch gravity line to pick up users along Providence Road and flow from the unified development. Sutton Center School Campus, pursue alternative 1, which is rehab of the MBR tank and other necessary components at the school wastewater treatment, and procure a design for a new septic system for Sutton Town Hall and proceed to replace this system as soon as possible. And Manchog, as the plant nears capacity, undertake an engineering study to determine the scope of upgrades necessary to provide increased plant capacity. And as I mentioned, if flow intake is from commercial and industrial, private commercial and industrial users, at the time that flow comes on board, be having the conversations and potentially requesting funds and or immediate upgrades to handle that additional flow. That's it. Okay? So,
Jen, can I ask you a question on the Manchog numbers, just real quick? The
sure.
I increase
Yeah.
on 2030 for Manchog?
Yes.
What's that all about?
The INI increase was tied to the potential to pull lines down Oakhurst Road to the open parcels that we know are going to be developed on Oakhurst. Chances are now, because they're doing an industrial septic system for Blackstone Logistics, and the other alternative would be Douglas pulling the sewer line, those INI increases probably won't come to fruition. But because there's still a very slight possibility, I didn't want to pull them out.
If that happens, though, isn't that a low number?
Yeah, it's very low. That's brand new sewer
No,
line.
If those parcels on Oakhurst get developed, wouldn't that potentially be a low number?
Would this be a low number for INI?
Yes.
No, because the only line you're adding goes from Main Street
Yeah.
up Oakhurst to the parcel edge. Then they'd pull cross country likely. They wouldn't go all the way down Lackey. They'd probably pull cross country, and I'll be shocked. I haven't seen it yet, but I'll be surprised if they didn't leave a utility easement across Lot 2. But their plan when we estimated these numbers was to just come to the lot corner on Oakhurst and then come cross country. So anything coming across the lots is they would own kind of that maintenance. So it was this pretty short length of sewer line. If you feel like you want to be more conservative, I can recalc very easily a length down Lackey Dam Road.
I don't think it makes that much difference. You've already, once you get over the 110,000,
You're done.
you're
Yeah.
done.
So if you have any questions about the updates or the base plan, I'm happy to answer them. I just wanted to make sure you saw them. It's your plan, basically. And if you had any questions or concerns or wanted me to adjust anything, I would do that. And then, like I said, the plan is to see if the selectmen want to see it for any reason, once it gets your blessing. And if they want to, we'll present it to them. And if not, it'll go right into DEP. And then Dawn and I and whoever else they want there would meet with DEP and have the discussion about where we need to go, if anywhere, in terms of permitting.
I have one more question.
Yep.
On alternative 2 in Wilkes, is that design process been started? And if so, I mean, that postdates this report, correct?
What?
If you started design on that, did you start design on that?
Oh, yeah, design was the contract was just executed literally Friday, I think.
So where's the pump station going?
We're still negotiating that. So, yeah, we're still in negotiations with that, and the design engineers know that. So they'll be starting with borings along the gravity routes. We expect that to be pinned down very soon.
So it's
within the week.
gravity for the new stuff back to the pump station? And an 8-inch line is sufficient for that?
No, wait a minute. Yes, 8 inches sufficient from coming from the crest past Unified into, yeah. Yep. And we have had conversations, obviously. Unified provided us, they did a ton of on-the-ground survey with WSP. And from Buttonwood actually up through Providence Road, they did mass DOT level survey, like uber detailed survey. And they gave us a copy of all of it to kind of bring down survey costs on this project and help us kind of get this moving forward. So, and part of that was having conversations with them to the best of their knowledge and expectation about what they would be speccing on their parcel and the kind of flows they would be anticipating. And they're not doing like food processing or anything like that. So they,
Yeah, but, I suppose my question is, what if things change? What if you add on to that? What if there's something that has to hook in from 146? I
Well,
mean, it's not that far away.
right. As you
Does an
know,
8-inch line do it?
well, an 8-inch line is just picking up strictly the users coming back into the plant. So it's only,
If you're going gravity from an elevation, let's say a Dudley Road elevation, right? And that increased flow dramatically. I mean, is it different to put a 10-inch line in than an 8-inch line?
I think we're talking about two different things.
Maybe.
If
Maybe I misunderstood.
if something happened, right, so the only thing coming this way would be flow from the industrial lots,
Right.
likely.
Or anything abutting it. I suppose that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Something that would abut
Well,
it.
they would likely go,
Along a roadway and then back down somewhere.
yeah, you know what, I'll have to look
Alright.
at the elevations. Yes, you're right. I will think about that and have a conversation with them, because I was actually thinking flow from the other side, from the
Right.
more residential side, would actually go out to Boston Road,
Right.
in which case it would come down Buttonwood, which is sized at 12 inches and more than adequate.
Right.
So chances are, it's a good thing to have that conversation now with them, though, actually, because, yeah, that's how I'd have to look at the roadway elevations that were just submitted with their subdivision control. But, yeah, I was always thinking industrial goes this way, not much flow. Anything from the other side goes the other way. That's the pie in the sky flow, but we have a line well big enough to handle that. So, great point, Jack.
That's all I have.
Jen, I just have, it's kind of a curiosity question. I'm reading on future conditions of the report. Prime Metals, which is going into the Sutton plant, Manchog plant, sorry. Have we had time to figure out exactly what their volume is or what their flow is going to be to us? Kind of just completed, right? Basically spring
No,
of this
they're already
20.
coming in.
So of 2020, right? Basically, they completed in 2020, I think.
2020.
So do we have a
They've been on.
full year evaluation,
Yeah, I think they've been on
what their
for.
flow is?
Darlene, do you have any recollection in terms of billing?
Off the top of my head, I don't. I can.
Yeah, I think
can look
they've
that
been
up
on
you,
for
maybe.
almost a full year.
Share that with you.
So we
yeah.
feel comfortable that that may not add to a lot of these numbers.
No,
And what about in Gilmore Park itself? Is there any
No, again, IBA is a super low flow as well.
Okay.
So, no, I'm very confident that we've adequately, covered prime metals and IBA, which were the only two not shown in the base number when this was run.
So Manchog plant basically is still got a lot of breathing room at this moment.
Yeah, I mean, 2020 was that 35,420 number, average daily. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, it does. I mean, I think you're probably closer to that. Well, nah, you're just a little over that 35 now, I think, the last time I talked to Don.
Okay.
You're over the 35, but not to the 48 yet. So, yes, you have breathing room. So again, you can see the industrial commercial flows. I don't have it right in front of me, but you definitely start to pick up in 2025. And I have a feeling what that was from the land that abutted Oakhurst.
Oh, okay.
So I really, because it wouldn't have been, because we didn't do east-west connector road because the roadway never went in. And the only other thing down there, we had maybe, no, yeah. I mean, most of those numbers, the 25, the 24, and the 24 in the year 2025, 2030, and 2035 would have been flow generated off Oakhurst Road. And now that we know the bulk of that acreage is either, well, half of that acreage roughly is going private septic system or likely to Douglas, you've got a lot more breathing room in this. How things change in, 2 years.
Yes, based on even the number of plans that we've had approved and then doesn't go forward.
Right, right. Yeah. It's the problem with all plans. They're a snapshot in time when you run those numbers, and if you kept updating them as things roll, especially in this time period, you'd never submit the plan. So those are pretty conservative. You'll probably be in pretty good shape in Manchog for quite a while.
And for the best of your knowledge, again, this would be probably a question for Donald too, if he was here. When it comes to Millbury and Sutton's IMA, we seem to have a lot of little on and off issues anyways to begin with there. Does this report and your projections help support our demand for a meter down there? We're still in that phase with them as far as,
Well-
an actual meter being installed but that we were gonna pay for.
I actually sat down with Keith Caruso and Gary Nelson before we signed our design contract with Tig and Bond over here, because we're installing new line in Millbury too. So this will be, it's from here all the way to the plant. So we definitely didn't want to put in a grant application
Okay,
unless they knew what we were doing and they agreed to it. And they did request that part of that grant application be a new meter pit just over the line. Don wants it on the Millbury side of the line, not on the Sutton side, because he doesn't want to maintain it and deal with it once it's put in. So it's my understanding, and I did have the Tig and Bond amended their proposal and included a new metering pit with a nice accurate meter in that pit right over the town line. So I don't know if that will cure the issue you're talking about, in which case, why would we do anything in the meantime if we're planning on moving
Right.
forward?
I agree with that. It's just, I didn't want to drift away from the report other than the fact that it seems to be an ongoing, if we're gonna keep adding to Millbury and we have these questions all the time about the flow.
Right. Yeah, well, it seemed to bug them that there were questions about the flow. So when I said, is there anything that you have concerns about this extension plan and blah, 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 and you're gonna need to send us, sign at least a support letter, if not, sign on to the grant application we'll be filing for this work. And they said, no, the only thing we really need, that I think you guys would agree, is a nice accurate meter. We need, and so we'd like you to work in a meter pit, designed for a meter pit around the town line. And then I came back and talked to Don about that, and he said, that's great, that's fine, just make it on the Millbury side. So they're responsible for maintenance and upkeep and all of that stuff. So So that is part of the design plan as well.
Does any members have any other discussion or things? We have a few visitors, anything, no comment from the public, fine. Well, Jen, I think you did a good job. I mean, I observed, when I was going through this, the first 70 pages seems to be what you kind of put on top of the 2002, or whatever that date was report.
Yeah, we pulled out, we just took the 2002, that was a lot of what you see kind of, I won't say for fluff, but a lot of consultants can do a lot of padding.
Yeah, yeah.
And the general thought from myself and Jim and even Don was that, there's no need for all of that. The plan, especially in a town, Sutton's not a small town, but our wastewater infrastructure is limited. And our plans for what we're going to do with that are limited. So there's no reason to have a 2-inch thick CW of text in your CWMP. Just be very clear. These are our projections. This is what's ongoing. These are our projections. These are what our alternatives are. This is what our recommendation is. Just very straightforward. So that's what we tried to produce here.
All right, I'll make a recommendation that we approve the updated revision of the previously approved CWMP report that we did a few months back, right? As it's been presented to us today. Is there any second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. The CWMP report updated by Jen, which is called the Sutton Final Report, October 2021. Is that what you're going to, the title of it?
Yeah.
Okay.
October, November.
And can I have you send through the PDF file, the full report?
Yeah, and I'll work with Don to get that posted on your
Yeah.
page.
Yeah.
So the recommended version will be up there, and then if anybody wants to look at it and has any questions or comments, they can reach out. And then I will keep you, or Don will keep you posted on whether the selectmen want it presented to them and want to see it, and if not, we'll start the process with DEP.
Now, it's not, just as a board member that won't be here in 2030,
So says
but
you.
who tracks these dates as far as the mathematics, and is it part of the town manager, planner,
No, it's your sewer superintendent.
sewer system department?
Sewer
Okay.
superintendent and the,
And I'd recommendation that we do have some kind of a notation of dates that follow up on things, which we can work with Donald.
yeah, see
That,
how
you know,
you're
would show up on
tracking.
our calendar, even if it's 4 years from now, or whatever it might be, of this list of items that you've mentioned. And would be good practice.
Right. Yeah, and it might be advisable for one of those recommendations to maybe pop a letter to the Board of Health and or to Jim Smith about tracking those septic failures, especially ones that are close to your existing lines, to see, so you can see, and the town can see if there's any issues with septic failures, high groundwater, et cetera, where it might make sense sometime in the future to adjust your next CWMP to extend a sewer line to serve those areas and get rid of that environmental issue. So that's something that's not super hard to do, but it is something that would be extremely useful in terms of making sure you're mitigating any potential environmental issues with failed septic systems and the like.
And Board of Health basically follows that.
I don't know. I don't work inside the Board of Health, so I don't know how they track or if they track septic failures. They don't do it on a map that I know of, and that's kind of what you need. You need that visual so you can literally pull up a map, and if, say, the red triangles are septic failures, when you start to see the clusters, then it's your flag to say, all right, do we need to do something here? What's the problem here? Is it high groundwater? Is it bad soils, what's going on here, and should this area be served by public sewer in terms of environmental issues? So,
Don't they have to issue a permit to replace it or repair it?
Well, yeah, you do have to pull a permit
that's
for the
why it's
homeowner to
not-
do it.
it's
Is it
not,
noted anywhere? Or-
Well, I mean, obviously they have their file cabinets full of things. I don't know what they do with that. Like if there's I know there's no map right now where they're
Right.
tracking on a map where failures are happening. I know they have institutional knowledge. Like if you asked Cheryl or even Judy right now, what parts of town do you see a lot of repairs and failures? I'm sure they could pull that out of their heads pretty quickly and say, but you really need kind of that visual that then can be shared with the sewer department, the selectmen, or whatever, as for them to use, for you to use, for the selectmen to use for future planning. So it's awesome that the Board of Health kind of knows what's going on, but if that's kind of a looming environmental issue, you need to know, the selectmen need to know so they can do the appropriate planning. So, and that one, like you said, they have files with all the addresses. They may keep a list of everything. So bringing somebody on board or, an intern or whatever to then take those addresses and dates and
Just
and
check 'em.
map them, it's not rocket science. And it would be a really useful thing to have. And then likewise, in terms of your perspective, what you and Dawn think would be useful to add to the sewer layer map in terms of manholes and line slopes or, whatever. Because we already have, obviously, the GIS sewer maps. We did some upgrades with, I believe, Weston and Sampson. Now you have this great platform that we can use for mapping, but it may be useful, and that's completely up to you and Dawn, to be able to look at a map and go, okay, this manhole is 40 years old. It's got 1,000 cracks in it per the data the guys input last year. And, we need to, you can track maintenance needs. You can track potential operational issues by having information. It's just all information.
Okay,
So,
very well informative. Well, with all that said and our approval, Jen, well, thank you very much. I know you put a lot of time into this. And this is going to be a big, or primarily a big help for the Wilkinsonville development right at the moment, which is the,
unified project, yep.
yeah. And
Yes.
are we moving forward on any other big development right now? Normally I ask Donald that every question when he's here.
Blackstone Logistic down in South Sutton, but again, that won't have any impact on Manchog Sewer
Okay.
because they have industrial septic system approved or planned right now. If that changes, they'll be going to Douglas likely. So that won't affect Manchog. There's really nothing else in Manchog kind of hovering that I think would be a big impact down there. And Unified's the big thing. And then you had a potential 40B that I talked about on 146. If that moved forward, that could give you a 25,000 gallon bump if that moved forward. And again, that's in a business district. At least a half a mile, if not more, from the existing line. So that's not something you would ever pick up in projections. So
In projections.
those are the things, like you said, with the number tracking, you want to be making sure your department head is tracking those numbers so he can see the anomalies and make adjustments if need be, So that's just looming out there. It's very preliminary. And the mega traffic, I won't say mega because I don't know, I haven't run the numbers, but the potential negative traffic impact at the lights may be the undoing of that project. At least it will be delaying that project because Mass DOT needs to take a look at that before. I know the selectmen will not sign that application until the traffic is vetted. So, so that may or may not go forward. So other than Unified and that potential project, you have Wedgwood Farms that is fully approved. Their last buyer is not able to secure financing right now, but they have some other parties interested. So we probably won't know until, I believe, they talked to you too, right, Nick? After the holidays, I think they said, before they'd know anything new on whether that's going to come on board or not. So, or when that's going to come on board. So those are the three big things to your Wilkes system. So,
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Very informative.
Thank you.
Look forward to talking to you on some newer matters, hopefully, as we move on.
Yeah, I'm not going anywhere. I'll be working with Don on the new sewer design and construction, and I'll be needing to powwow with you and get some signatures and some stuff from you as we apply for a one-stop MassWorks grant for that construction. So, okay,
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jen.
take care.
All right, moving on, we have old business, and there is nothing on the agenda right now for old business, unless someone has something they'd like to bring up. And we'll pass on to new business. Our next meeting date under that will be January 12th at 2 p.m., which will be the second Wednesday of January. Does anyone have anything under new business they'd like to bring up? Nothing? Okay. And we hope Donald is having a nice day, working hard on the permits and licensing. So we miss his input, however. So we'll let him know that. So at that point, someone make a motion to
Make
adjourn?
a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Second, all approve to adjourn? Aye.
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 It concludes our meeting. It's 2:45 p.m. Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas
Merry Christmas, that's right.
and New Year.